ขอโอกาส Today is the 8th day of March, and to say that is to refer to time as it passes. As each day goes by, we consider that day to be divided into two parts. There's the part with the light of the sun that we call daytime, and the part in darkness that we call night. And this changing of day to night, of brightness and dark, is important to our physical bodies. Because our bodies have this connection to nature, then the light and dark play a role in alerting the body during the daytime and allowing it to relax at night. So, our bodies are a part of nature, and that nature is a part of Dhamma. Our bodies are part of that physical expression of Dhamma as it appears in nature. They're the physical elements. And our body is simply that, a collection of elements, just about half a metre wide, as thick as the palm of your hand, and 2 meters long. This is the shape that we call a body. It's one part of the natural world, and so it's subject to those universal characteristics of the physical world that we call the three characteristics. Three characteristics of imperfection, not self, and impermanence. And of course, everything in the physical world is subject to this true Dhamma. In our bodies, living in these bodies, we rely on the planet Earth. That's our physical location and the location for this body and life. And this body is located on this world. The world, as it rotates, also rotates around the sun. It takes 365 days. We call that 1 year. And so for one person, they'll live in that body for no more than 100 circuits of the earth around the sun. And that's the story of Rupa Dhamma, the physical aspect of our lives. And once that time is up, the body, having declined and deteriorated, will go back to the earth, and each of those elements return to their natural state. And if we consider the way that this body belongs to this earth in this way, then that's a reflection which helps us to calm our mind and relax its grasping tendencies, and to give up those desires that stain the heart. It gives up that sense of identifying and self-importance, where we create and attach to a sense of self. If we abandon that sense of self, then we see things naturally as they are, with nothing to be gained and nothing to be lost. And with this attitude, we can relax and calm the mind. We can free the mind of all of its hindrances and attachments. By doing that, we uplift the mind. We're not uplifting the mind to some excited state of pleasure, but we're uplifting the mind by bringing it to peace. The mind that's secluded from the desires of the world as the true happiness of being at peace. And the Buddha praised this happiness. He praised our practice of goodness, because through practicing the kusala, or the wholesome, then we create something beautiful with our lives and bring our mind to this natural, peaceful state. So we should contemplate on this as we find a direction for our practice and the correct way to live our lives. Living correctly with moral precepts and cultivation of the mind, then the mind's free from worries, free from attachments and concerns. The mind can put down its anxieties about the past and concerns for the future, existing only in the present moment, and the mind is free from worries. So that's where we bring our mind. We focus on looking and knowing, right there, at the natural Dhamma in the present moment, as we observe our connection to nature in the physical and immaterial Dhamma. So this is something for us to reflect on as we come to this secluded place, this appropriate place for practice. Being secluded from all distraction, we can look back at our own life, gain understanding, and learn how to use our lives for the utmost benefit. The Buddha said, a human life, if used correctly for this highest benefit, then that's something that's worthy of praise. In our practice, we rely on heedfulness. With sati or mindfulness, we don't fall into negligence. That's why mindfulness is known as the Dhamma of great support. It's an essential component of our practice. With sati or mindfulness, then we are composed, aware and restrained in all of our actions. In every action, we have mindfulness, and those actions are well considered, and we don't fall into heedlessness. And with mindfulness, then as we go through our actions, we see things correctly, according to the truth. We direct that mindfulness at those places of mindfulness and where we see the truth directly. The Buddha called these the Dhammas that make for enlightenment, the Dhammas that make for insight, for clear seeing, for freedom, for liberation. These are the Bodhipakya Dhammas. These are the Dhammas that we call the wings to awakening. And their basis is mindfulness, beginning with the 4 foundations for mindfulness. So just as in our lives we live in a country and have a residence within this geography in this country, then in the same way, our mind lives in its country, and the mind's location is just this body. It's just the geographical location for our mind, living its life through this physical body. So let's look at this body, which we call our life. Let's look at this location. What are its features? In just the way that we examine the geography of a place in the world, we look at those natural resources which are useful to us, such as water. Water is a natural feature that is useful in maintaining life. In the same way, with our mind, and we look at our body and understand that that body goes about its actions through the control of our mind. So with our consciousness, it's our mind that gives directions to the body. So when we have mindfulness, we look at the body and understand it and see it as just a body. It's just a vehicle. It's not who we are. It doesn't even belong to us. We don't have rights over the body, but ultimately it belongs to nature. And because it belongs to nature, it will fulfill its function according to nature. And that function is like all things in the natural world that come into existence, develop and grow, exist for a while, and then go into decline until they pass away. And so we learn to understand our body as being just like this. It's not us or ours, but it's another collection of elements in the physical world. All of those elements and minerals, like aluminium, potassium, magnesium, and so on, all these elements and minerals exist in our bodies as well. Our bodies are simply elements that go according to nature. Earth, water, wind and fire, those are the physical elements that our body is made of, existing in this space and controlled by this consciousness. So our bodies have this physical form with its own characteristics. It is just a part of nature. It's a part of Dhamma. We contemplate in order to see and understand that the body is just the body and the mind is just the mind. It's not us, it doesn't belong to us, and it has to go according to nature. As we correct our understanding and bring it in line with the way that things are, then our hearts become more peaceful. So give it a try and see how the mind can be brought to peace by understanding the true nature of the body. Before the Bodhisattva was enlightened, he left his royal palace and went forth as a renunciant that we call anagarika. Anagarika is one without a home, is one without attachments. And that means one is ready to let go of clinging and craving. One's ready to experience the contentment of the heart that doesn't rely on material possessions. And we can liberate the mind to let it achieve that natural peace and happiness. Through our practice, we cleanse the heart of those desires, and the heart is secluded from desires. Seeing the body as merely a body, then we have seclusion of the body, and which we call kaya viveka. Our mind, knowing the body as just a body, is freed from delight and disappointment. It's got nothing to gain and nothing to lose. We're content. If we have a lot, we're content with a lot. If we have only a little, then we're content with just a little. And that way, we're free from that sense of lacking and longing, and we're not drawn along by craving. This is the function of mindfulness, to look at this physical and mental component of our life, and by understanding it correctly, by putting it down. By putting down the burden of the body, then we achieve that sense of freedom and emptiness. And the empty heart, content with nothing, has happiness. Therefore we train in mindfulness. This body, being a physical thing, we move it around in the physical world. We move it through its various postures, standing, walking, sitting or lying down. It's our practice to develop mindfulness in all of those postures. No matter whether we're eating or working, whatever we're doing, our practice is to develop mindfulness through all postures and in all activities. With that mindfulness, we have a sense of care, a sense of restraint, and that's the nature of our practice.
Dhammayang Varakatha Sadhu Karang Dhanamasi Sadhu 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 Anumodami. We just hear the last translation from Venerable Tanya.
So, when we speak of the heart that is either defiled or undefiled, the Buddha said, Citte sankilite tukkati patikanka. The defiled heart, if we follow that, that leads us to suffering. But in just the same way, citte asankilite sukkati patikanka, the heart that is clean and pure and well-intentioned, if we follow that, then that will lead us to happiness. And so when the mind is clean and pure, then not only do we feel good, but our intentions are correct, and they lead to great benefit. They lead to peace and happiness, and they're free from harm and from danger. If the heart is defiled, then the mind is dirty, and we feel irritated and uncomfortable. If we have mindfulness, then we know this, and we recognize it, and we can let go of those unwholesome states. So it's our practice to apply mindfulness and know the heart and to know its state. Our heart is affected by our physical environment and by our contact through the senses. As we see or hear a sense object, that can lead us to attach and then to like or dislike those objects. And that's the behaviour of the heart that's not yet fully correct in its view, and that sense contact can lead to danger. Therefore, we train to maintain that mindfulness in every moment. It's not enough just to be mindful, but we need to have khanti or patience so that we can endure and we can tolerate through those negative, unwholesome and unhappy states of mind, and not to follow them through making bad action through the body, speech or mind. That's why we call patience the Dhamma that makes for beauty. It's the Dhamma that makes for beauty. It's the strength of the heart, and it's the power of the heart. So with mindfulness following the heart, then we put down both its liking and disliking. When those pleasant states arrive, then we don't welcome them, we don't delight in them. When unpleasant states arise, then we simply apply our right view and see there's simply an arising state in the mind that will also pass away. It doesn't have danger if we recognize it for what it is and we put it down. But if we're not mindful and we simply follow those mind states, then they are dangerous in just the same way as when there is a fire, it's the wind that brings true danger. Just the way in the defiled heart, or those winds of sense contact, if we follow those negative mind states, that's when the true danger will arise. Therefore we protect ourselves by watching over our heart and recognize that mind state as simply a state of mind. With this perspective, we have the attitude of letting go and putting down. We see all of that as simply proliferation. They're simply adding on to that pure and empty and natural state. making us like and dislike, making us be delighted and disappointed for no good reason over things which are insubstantial. So let's recognize these things as simply hindrances and obstacles. With mindfulness and clear comprehension, then we have that right attitude of putting down and letting go. We know these things as belonging to the world. They are loka Dhamma. They are simply obstacles, obstructions and distractions. So we know that our attitude towards these things is to recognize them, put them down and let them go. If we don't attach, then they're free from harm and we're free from danger. So for all of us, training in this way, through developing in our mindfulness, then we also adjust and adapt our view. And through the experience of recognizing these mind states with mindfulness, then our view comes closer and closer to truly understanding and recognizing the way that the world really is. Seeing those three characteristics in all physical and immaterial Dhammas as well, as being impermanent, not self, and imperfect. And we carry on with our practice, which is simply the job of putting down, letting go, and releasing our attachment. The more we let go, the more free we are from those worries and concerns, the more accurately we see according to right view, and the more we reduce our burdens, the more we set down that weight. Our mind is secluded and our heart is free and light. It takes away the hot and intoxicated state of mind, and we appreciate a peaceful mind, which is a true state of happiness, and it's better than simply riding the waves of pleasure and displeasure. It's seclusion, it's the peace of right view and right understanding. And it's understanding according to the way that things truly are, that we call samma ditthi. Samma ditthi is simply like when we illuminate the place and we can see things because the darkness is gone. When the darkness is gone and we have mindfulness, it's mindfulness that destroys the darkness. We see the body and understand it as it truly is. We see the mind and understand that as it truly is, thereby overcoming those obstacles. And so, in the words of the Buddha, we say, Citte asankilite sukkati patikanka. The undefiled heart leads us to true peace and happiness. So watch your mind, follow your mind. By doing that, you'll be free from the bonds of Mara. You have to do this practice yourself. Then you'll receive the benefit yourself, and you'll know it for yourself. You'll be one who has a sense of fullness and contentment within your own mind, a sense of peace and a sense of joy, a sense of power. The Buddha described them as the five powers. It's the power of having faith. It's the power of having energy, having mindfulness, well-developed samadhi, and the power of wisdom. It's that faith and wisdom that knows the worldly dhammas as they are and knows to abandon them, and with faith puts them down in an instant. And this is what we call right practice. It's the practice that leads to great benefit. So think about this for yourself and know and understand this for yourself. This is your study, it's your practice, it's your experience of learning to live your life with mindfulness and wisdom. Living this way will lead to the greatest benefit. Open your eyes, see things as they are, and understand sense contact as simply that, not adding, not taking away, and not letting it lead to delusion, not being overcome by the worldly dhammas, not being held down, and not having one's view obscured from the truth. We free ourselves from simply this worldly experience of pleasure and pain, and we go beyond the experience of the worldly being. And as the Buddha said, then we clear that obstruction out from our eyes, and we free ourselves from both kinds of suffering, both the clear and easily apparent suffering of pain, and also the hidden suffering of pleasure. Being free from this pleasure and pain, seeing them as simply obstacles, and not giving way to delight and disappointment, do we learn to adjust to this new way of being, as being one who sees the harm and the danger in the round of rebirth, of one who has mindfulness and clear comprehension, one who sees and understands the world as empty and containing nothing for us to gain. Knowing the world is empty, there's nothing that we need to add. We have no sense of lacking, and we can exist contented with correct view, understanding things as they truly are.